Hello, wonderful. It is Sarah K Ramsey, and I asked Cynthia D'Amour on a second date because our first date went so well on dating. And I know if you heard her last interview with me, then you're like, oh, yay, she's back because we talked all things dating. Cynthia is an empowerment coach who helps successful women attract love without dimming their light. Do not dim your light for the men folk or settling down. One of the things she talked about in the last thing, which I will mention every time that we speak, is most women are not picky enough. You are not too picky, and someone's probably using the flip on you to tell you to lower your expectations so they don't have to raise their behavior. You're not too picky. She went on 300 dates in 11 months with 300 men, and before meeting her Mr. 301 at Mr. Right, and that was before online dating. So we're gonna have to talk this time about how you landed that many dates.
All right.
And she is coming out in February 2021. The Successful Women's Guide to Delicious Dating. Hey, Cynthia, how are you?
Good, Sarah. So happy to be back.
Oh, so happy to have you back. We get asked on the second date. So let's talk about how in the world do you manage to land 300 dates that without online dating? That's impressive.
It was an interesting transformation because it happened like overnight. And back then they had like ads, classified ads for love, and they had
Uh-huh.
this new technology called voicemail. And the first, I don't know, 50 or 60 I did that way. And then I realized that there was a ton of men in the world and I could be choosier. And I just started walking around because I knew that I would say, worthy of love or that getting a date was easy. And I decided to own it. And my God, Sarah, I would go to the grocery store and have 3 dates walking out.
Thank you. People are like, where did you find men? I was like, at the car wash, at the grocery store. Like I was open. I made myself approachable. So it seems like, you start up conversations and end up with dates.
Yep, absolutely. And I actually had all of them ask me out except the last one, which was James, my husband.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that was really interesting too.
So did
Um,
you ask him out?
just sort of.
Uh-huh.
We met at a convention, and
Uh-huh.
he was when I first met him. I thought he was a weirdo because
Uh-huh.
he had way crazy hair, and I'm like, oh please. And but he had a convertible and just had walked in and forgotten to comb it before he met me. Right.
Oh. Yeah.
So we met the next night at the big party at the end,
Uh-huh.
and I had harem pants on, silky harem pants.
Uh-huh.
And he had walked up and he's like, thank you for signing my petition. We played a little game where I signed off on something and get to know you. And he walked up and he's like, thank you for signing my petition. Do you want to dance? And Bruce Springsteen came on, and it was a little later at night. So perhaps I was a little bit more excited, and kicked my leg up for my air guitar. And he ripped his tie off. He had a suit and tie on
How
and
fun.
tied it on my thigh, tried to tie it on my thigh,
Uh-huh.
but the
Uh-huh.
pants were too silky.
Uh-huh.
So it went around my neck. And so we talked. And if you talk to James, he would say that meeting me was like a religious experience.
Oh.
You could feel the energy shifting. It was
Yeah.
really cool. And so we went through the night, and he was ready to go. And he hadn't asked me for my number.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, come on. Are you serious? This is like the most fascinating man. I can't just let him go. So I think that's a big thing. Like, you need to just take a stand with, you want to meet somebody, you ask him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted to tie back. I said, oh, I was going to hold it ransom until you pick me up and buy me dinner.
Do you hear how fun and flirty that is? And it not needy, right?
Right.
That was not needy. It was fun. Learn how to be like play with this. When you make it so serious, it's just
Well, and
strange.
that's because we make it, oh my God, if he doesn't ask me, I'll be alone for the next 7 months.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
We put a lot of pressure on ourselves, or even in that moment. And when I said that, James will swear I never said, buy me dinner. He just heard, will you pick me up? Because he
Yeah.
looked at me, he's like, oh my God, you've made this so easy.
Yeah.
And, you
Hey,
know,
have you
I'm
seen a study on dating and marriage? And it said the couples that they interviewed them early on in their relationship and then later, and all the couples who explained that their relationship was easy, kind of at the beginning, right? Uh, stayed together, and then the other people was like, oh no, I'm gonna fix him, I'm gonna work it, we just need to work harder, we need to. Have you seen that
I
study?
haven't seen it, but I'd love to, because that's exactly what I tell people.
Me too.
That is it's
We
a
get in our
sign.
heads like, oh, relationships are so hard, it's
No.
hard work. It's not hard work. Like, some things in life are hard work, like raising kids or whatever. Like,
Right.
sometimes life can be hard work, but it's easy with them. Like, it's so easy.
But when you have to go and say, oh my God, he said this, and you go to 5 girlfriends, what do you think it means?
Yes.
He's not your guy.
Yes. When you have to start Googling his personality
Right.
in a, like, not in a, like, Myers-Briggs or like personality test way, but in like a, like, dysfunctional, like, do you think he had this trauma? Well, if I heal this trauma, then I'll have Mr. Wonderful.
Right. So you can, no,
Have you ever seen that work? Like, really, truly,
no,
have you ever seen some
no,
man like 360 just from the love of a good woman?
no. He's going to
Only in the
suck you
movies.
down. Right. But and
It's in
even,
every movie.
the thing that got me was Star is Born with Lady Gaga. Did you
Okay.
see
I
that?
haven't seen that. I love that song.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Shallow. But they have this moment where she met the rock star, and they had a little bonding moment where they're singing together in the parking lot after hours or whatever. And he stalks her. He follows her home. He stalks her. She goes inside, and her dad's like, oh my God, here's this person here. She's like, oh, it's him. And dad's like, go put different clothes on and go get that guy. And she's like, Dad, he's an alcoholic. Who cares? Go get this man. And to me, that was like just that moment of, I was like nauseous. Like, she didn't need that. Not that there's anything, I'm not going to judge alcoholism or anything, but she even said, here's something I don't want to be involved with, Dad. And Dad said, go get him anyways.
So, such a bad idea.
Right.
Such
Totally
a bad
agree.
idea. Yeah.
But
So if you didn't,
fixer.
find fixer-uppers, how did you get 300 dates in a year?
You know
You're
what?
talking about the classified ads, but how, like,
I just started going out and meeting people, and what I learned is that women have an on and off sign, real big. And when you've been hurt a lot, or you think all men are scum, or you're scared of them or whatever, you have a back off, and you're like a man repellent before they even see you. And so for me, I came into a space of, since I didn't need any of them desperately, I was allowed to say no.
Yep.
Right? I just really enjoyed men. I enjoyed women too. I mean, I enjoyed talking to people at that point. And so
that is huge.
Yes.
Say that again. I mean, I just enjoyed talking to people at that point. I just tried to meet new people. It's exactly what I did. Exactly.
Right. Absolutely. Because you never know. I would talk to anybody, and I didn't care if they were young or old or whatever. I didn't necessarily go on dates with people who were really out of my age range. But if I'm talking to someone who is younger and they're super sweet and smart and all that, there's always an uncle. It's like, oh, you're exactly the type of guy that I would love to meet. Do you have someone 10 years older in your family?
and saying, I am looking to date, right?
Yes.
Like, saying that it's not broken, alone, stupid, whatever, right?
Oh
saying,
my gosh,
no, saying, yeah, I'm looking for love, right? It's totally fine, totally appropriate. Like, it's a must. Like, it's not like you have to. And having that green light, switching your head onto the green light, that's huge.
Well, and I interviewed 100 men like 3 years ago, and I was asking them questions about this, and it was something like, on a scale of 1 to 5, how well do you know when a woman is interested in you? And it was like a 1.8 was their average. Because women don't give good green lights, right? And with Me Too, the nice men are like pulling back a smidge because they want to be respectful. They don't want to be in your face. So it's really on us to say, yes, I'll chat with you. It's not like I'm going to have your babies or marry you, right?
Yeah.
You are a stranger.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to allow you to entertain me for a few moments, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Give us some more data on what a green light looks like in a female. You're at an event, you're somewhere, obviously people who are online dating, there's some type of green light, right? But let's say in real life, how do you channel your green light?
I think it's looking at, I like to think of it like spreading sunshine. Like you were there like Johnny Appleseed, and you were just simply spreading sunshine. And you come in as this person who is very, they're lucky to be in your presence, and you are bestowing a gift upon them to, just saying hello, which is a simple hello can be a green light, a hello and a smile, bigger green light. Um, and just, I think we put too much pressure on, like, oh my God, this has got to happen. Where when you just go out and you like give this out to the world, people notice that, and they feel it and they come up. When I travel, because I'm speaking at events, I have men run across airports to meet me still, which is hilarious. It's married to over 20 years, and man, they come running to ask me out. And I'll call James and say, honey, I got asked out on a date. And he's like, congratulations. And he knows I say no,
Sure.
but he's always like, you can't blame a guy for having good taste.
So I was at the National Success Summit, married with a ring on, and there were some females there who this guy that I just met, he called them husband hunters, right? Okay. They had gotten the first row tickets of the Tony Robbins event. I'm not sure how much they paid for these, right? Because I was in the good seats, but they were in the front row seats, right? Okay. And dressed, and I really truly thought they were strippers. Like I think they might have been strippers, and I was like, everybody there is like entrepreneurs or business people, or like there for like self-growth. And you see these, and I'm not trying to like body shame or anything like that, but it was noticeably, they looked noticeably different than everyone else involved, right? And this was in Nashville, so you had like country singers. So you had like people with like even like the grunge long hair that probably made $8 million this year. It wasn't as if it was just business people in suits, but they just obviously stood out, right? And I said, I'm not trying to, we kind of looked at each other like, when he goes, oh, those are the husband hunters.
Okay.
Right. And it's like, but every guy there was looking at my hands, right? Because I wasn't needy. I wasn't looking for a husband. I didn't come across, I just was making conversation. I was happy to be there. I purposely went alone because then I end up networking in a better way. Yes. Yeah. You bring your girlfriend as your safety net. We talk about wingmans, but wingmans are useful if they are kicking you into being more vulnerable. They are not useful as a hiding place.
Right. Totally agree.
Right.
But I think too, another thing that you can do, and it's so funny you talk about that, because when women are in their hunt mode, which is what we've been classically trained to do, and some women do it to an extreme, what happens is that desperation comes through, and the guys know you're there for the wallet. Yep. You're there because you want a relationship. I've heard from so many men who have said, you know what? They just want to be married. They just want to be in a relationship. They don't even know me. And she's already in love.
My husband dated, he's, VP of a Fortune 200 company, tall, dark, and handsome, and rich, as you said before. I'll call him all those things, right?
Right.
And because you talked about that our last thing, and he's definitely the what many of my ladies would be looking for. He's a good catch, as we would say, right? And I think one of the biggest strategies for me is, where we kind of met each other. I'd done some dating, but we met each other decently quickly after another relationship had ended. And, I didn't have the baggage of like needing it to work out. I didn't expect it to work out. Like, I didn't think we kind of met so soon in a way I didn't think it would work. I wasn't expecting.
It was there for the joy.
So worked to my advantage, right? Because it was like, I'm not expecting this to work out. So I didn't come into it with need. But he came into it with 10 years of dating. Okay. So from his 10 years of dating, when I did start talking marriage, about a year in, I just said, look, I got young kids. Like, where is this going?
Right.
Was my timeline. My grandmother had actually died. And I saw kind of the end of her life and her legacy. And I said, my grandmother died. I was at the hospital with her when she died. And when I came to visit him, I think he was expecting to talk about my grandmother, but I was like, ready to talk about like the end of my life, like where the rest of my life was going. Like that was like, and I just said, where are we going? And he said, what? I thought we were going to talk about your grandmother. And I said, well,
surprise.
Yeah, I just need to know where this is going. And but I want you to hear me. That was a year in.
I'm a huge fan of dating a year before, because like Jameson was in politics.
Huh?
And so when we talked about it, and we knew that we were, you could just tell it was going to be a lovely relationship
Sure.
together, and it was. But he was very adamant, we can't get engaged, we can't do this until we go through a year together, because politics has some intense seasons,
Yeah. What a
and
nice thing to say. Like,
yeah.
and so honest,
Well,
you
and
know.
I was teaching at the time, so I had a different lifetime. We all come with stuff in our normal rhythm
Oh,
of life.
sure. Sure.
And going through the holidays together, it's really
Right.
important, right? Because you
Mhm.
get to see so much.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
so yeah, I'm a huge fan. When people go and they, just lock down right away, it's like, oh, just slow down.
It hardly ever works out, right? So in my situation, we were together for 1 year, and well, I was saying where he'd had the 10-year baggage. He
Mm-hmm.
said, "You don't want to marry me, you just want to get married because of the 10 other
Right.
years." And I was like, "Well, what?" I mean, I had to come, deal with that because I was like, "What? No, no." And then I kind of waited another year before I eventually said, I was like, "Okay, I'll give him some time." Right. But at the 2 year mark, I was like, "I love you. My feelings for you have not changed. My expectations for a relationship have. I have 2 young children. I do not want to date someone for 15 years." Right.
Right.
Like that is not going to be.
Right.
And so many people say, "Well, how did you get him to do it? Like, how did you get him to propose?" And it's like, I wasn't lying when I said, either way, that anything past this point, I'm just going to be bitter towards you.
Right.
Right.
But you were honest. I
I
mean,
was
that's the
honest.
thing. You were honest, and you were also giving boundaries.
I was giving boundaries,
This
and I
is
was
my
allowing
boundary.
him to be him.
Well, and there's a huge difference between sharing a boundary and giving an ultimatum.
Oh, yes.
That's
Yeah,
an
and
important
I said,
distinction.
this is no longer. I said, "Oh, you've been so good to me. You've been such a wonderful place in my life. I don't want to drag this out for another year where then
Mhm.
I meet you." But if I saw you in public right now, 5 years down the road, I would run up and hug you and say, "Oh, he was such a wonderful person in my life." If I drag this out for another however long, I'm going to grow bitter because then I'm not respecting my boundaries.
Right.
And I don't want to turn into that person. I don't want our relationship to morph into that. And he was like, "Okay, I can't lose you." He's so sweet. He's so sweet. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Good
That's
job.
kind of, yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I research. I have a master's degree in research, so I research dating like I do everything else in my life.
Right.
So, but it worked out well. Obviously well for you. So, what advice would you give someone to keep up the energy in if they're going on dates and meeting new people, and it becomes exhausting for so
Right.
many women?
Right.
How do you keep it fun? How do you keep it light? How do you keep up that energy so you don't give up?
Well, I would do 4 or 5 dates in an afternoon, and was doing just half hours. It didn't take long to, there's nothing worse than going on a first date
Good
that's 4 hours.
advice. Good
Right.
advice.
In
Especially for
10 minutes.
high achieving women who don't have a lot of time, or if you have a child situation, custody
No.
arrangement.
So
Yeah.
then you can get in and out in an hour from the time you leave your house to the time you're back, if you do one date.
Mhm.
And like a pre-qualifying conversation. Is this person someone I want to invest more time in?
Mhm.
Right. So that's a huge thing. Um, so I had found a restaurant where there's 3 restaurants in the same parking lot.
Mhm.
And I go parking lot to restaurant to restaurant to restaurant, running circles around the parking lot. And then I did a lot of self-care during the week,
Mhm.
and just because most of these guys were next, right? 30 minutes in, it's like, okay, not my
Mhm.
guy. He
Mhm.
doesn't a great guy.
Mhm.
I've settled before. It's not fun, right? This time
So
is
if they're
fun.
nuts, right? One, how do you know they're nuts? And two, what advice do you give women who are trying to talk themselves out of the data they actually see before them, right? Like, oh, they're nuts, but they're like, oh, but maybe he's really not. Maybe I just imagined he was nuts, right? Like, walk us through that process for you.
Well, if you notice they're nuts, to me, when you're doing this, if someone is pushing for a commitment, you're the woman I've been looking for my entire dreams.
Oh, God.
Can we be exclusive? I've known you for a half hour. I've
Oh,
dreamed
yeah.
all of that's nuts. I mean, that That's narcissistic abuser language. And
Love
so
bombing. Yeah.
realizing that is the typical man is not going to want to commit. Might have sex, sure thing, but want to commit, no.
It is not a love story. It is not
No.
my parents, they dated 9 days before they got engaged. It's the craziest story. You know, they're still married. But that, they were like, my dad did his doctoral thesis in dating, right? And it was.
Oh, did he really?
He did. He did. I was reading marriage books in middle school, so you can imagine how proud I was to go through a divorce. Yeah, it was
Right.
great choices. I like, you know, it's like sometimes we get like, one of those strategies I have now, you're talking about, you know, possibly getting friends and family involved in your thing. You know, I will never think I'm too good to fall for something bad. And just recognizing in that humility, because I kind of did before. It's like, oh, I know, I've been reading marriage books forever, you know.
Right.
Yes, right. No, now I will never think I'm Jesus, Mother Teresa,
Oh, Sarah,
Gandhi, all
no.
wrapped up into the. I will never, you know, I will never be so. I didn't think of it as cocky at the time, but it's pretty cocky to think you can change somebody. It is pretty dang cocky, and I am my own superhero.
Mm-hmm.
I am not anyone else's savior. I
There
teach
you go.
you to save yourself.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so yeah. So how? Any more thoughts on that resiliency?
Yeah, but you know what? Another piece of it is to stay out of storyland.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to me, that's another flag to watch for when you start to feel like you have to justify a man's behavior. Oh, he's late, but you know, he's a big corporate hitter. Oh, he's, you know, he didn't give me a gift, but he's busy. So whenever you start justifying with stories, he's a next.
So
It's a
one of the way I describe it is like if you collect data, and if there's a 3 strikes, you're out. And maybe there can be a, you know, if you're only doing 30 minutes and you got 300, there's a 1 strike, you're out, maybe. But give me your feedback on that, or your, you know,
Sure.
language around that.
So for me, when I do the list, I have must-haves. Like for me, it was the cat versus dog, religionism.
And that was on the last video if you've not seen it. So she had a list of 46 things going into dating. And on the 30-minute questions, she would try to ask questions, and you'll have to go back and listen to that episode. But bringing in, that's how she decided if they got a second date or not.
Yes. And so with the list thing, I get my typical client up to about 100 items on their list.
Mm-hmm.
And we identify what's a must-have and what's a preference.
Mm-hmm.
And so when someone violates a must-have, they're just a next. So that's where you get good at asking the discerning questions and listening and watching and noticing how they treat other people. You know, I'm a huge fan of don't just go to dinner dates.
Yeah.
Go out to different experiences, and how do they treat staff? How do they, you know, if you get hurt or sick, how do they treat you? Or, you know, that's farther down the dating line, but just keeping your eyes open and believing what they say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of that will help you with that discernment.
I love that. And I want you to hear kind of what we're saying and hear the conversations. If you heard me talking to some other dating coaches or hearing this, like, there is no magic formula that does not involve you doing the work of this.
Mm-hmm.
There's none. There's no secret dating coach that's like, oh, here, let's put, I mean, even matchmakers, like I would be terribly nervous about even a matchmaker situation, because, you know, you have the narcissistic mother, you're aware of some abusive, but you know, most matchmakers, they're looking for data to match you up to like boost their like 96% success rate. And
they're looking for the money. Let's be real on that too.
Yeah.
And they don't know everything, and they don't know you on the important fit stuff. Mm-hmm. You have to become your best protector of what's important to you. And so the resilience thing, it's like you just keep going into how you are special, you are worth it. You know, I always tell my ladies, there's so many men in so little time. So you don't need to pick up someone who's only a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10 for you, because there's lots of 9s and 10s out there. They're just waiting for you. They're dreaming of you. They're praying for you to show up in their lives, but you can't get there until you know who you are.
And I love that. And I think about it almost as like being in a game of sales, right? If you knew there were 500 candidates, right? And there are 500 candidates. I hear, oh, I'm from a small town. I'm from this, I'm from that. You know, if there's 500 candidates or whatever, and you know that maybe what'd you say, 50, like 1%, maybe, I don't know, like what, how many would you say? If there
I
were
figured out
500
1%
guys.
per 1% per where you live.
So 1% of guys would be a fit per where you live, right? And
1%
so,
population, yeah.
yeah. You have to go back and listen to this is part 2. She got a second date, right? So looking up that data about where they live, and say, okay, there's a 1%. So within that 1%, going through that next, so you knew there was people who were good fits for you. I'd love to know your thought processes on, like, is there soulmates? Is it just like one person he would be a good fit for? Or do you think someone is like meant to be and that's your only person?
I think that's a lovely concept for other people.
I agree. I picked Cynthia. Like, I got to pick. Like, I was on a thing and I was like, oh, I'm looking for a dating coach. I got to choose. I got to be selective. You can see what a good job I did. But yes, Cynthia.
And she did a beautiful job, Sarah.
Yes, thank you. But it is, right? It's like, my podcast
is. It's a way to get women to settle down. If you want to talk about what it really is, when there's the prince, there's the hero, there's the person who's going to save me, my twin flame, my one heart, and you think that person might be it, you stop looking. You stop and analyzing, is this person treating me well? You go for the romance, which, the romance is to numb your brain in many ways, which, it sounds sad, but we've been taught a lot of this stuff as women. Sure. Oh, he brought me candy. Yes, it cost him $5.67 from the local drugstore. Yeah. That is not a sign of love. And yet James will go out when he's walking my dogs and he will see a beautiful dandelion and he's brought it back and he'll say, honey, I brought you a present. I'm like, a freaking weed? The first time he did this, I'm like, a weed? He's like, it's like full of sunshine and so bright and it makes me think of you.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
That's sweet.
Yes.
But there's a huge difference between that, which is affection and love and caring and all that, versus a first, second date who shows up with a cheap box of candy and we're taught, oh, he brought candy. Or he brought me roses. Yes, they are $7.83 at Trader Joe's, or a grocery store. So we've been taught to give our power away when somebody puts a little token of affection on us. So that whole true love, I think there are people you really love. And I think we have capacity to love a lot of people. And when you date some volume, and like with my clients now, most of them, 95% of them, it's 30 or less. So it's not, you don't have to do 300 like I did. I was figuring stuff out. But when you do some volume and you actually do some educated choosing, you get to choose the quality of life and the quality of fit.
I love that. And in my own life, I think I am good at relationships and I am checking through to see if you're a good fit for me and the life I want. And not in an ugly way, like I got my own business going, right? I'm not looking for somebody to save me, right?
Right.
I was like, baby, I think I'm gonna buy a house. I want to buy a house in Miami. Like, what do I need to do to buy you a house in Miami? And it's like, he's like, oh, cool, and rather than like, oh, I don't want to work. I just, whatever. That's what we're talking about. But when I find I'm good at relationships and I'm looking for someone else who's good at relationships. That's what
does that do? That increases the odds. Good relationships. I'm good at relationships. We date. We have pretty good odds of having a good relationship.
Rather than just I'm looking for a soulmate, right?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Because they don't qualify them.
Yeah. Yes, you got to qualify, and next. Cynthia, thank you so much. Thank you for being my second date and for helping my women find love. Check her out, The Successful Women's Guide to Delicious Dating, coming out February 2021. And check out Cynthia D'Amour. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good to see you.